Bonjour à tous et toutes. Welcome to Learn French, and today we're going to be looking at telling time. So here's some of the things that we're going to be looking at. We're going to be looking at telling time in French, of course. Telling time past the hour. We're going to be looking at the expressions midi and minuit. We're also going to be looking at the differences between the 12-hour notation and the 24-hour notation. And then we'll look at some vocab that deals with telling time in French, and then also telling time past the hour, and then telling time to the hour. Then we'll go look at some examples that will help us grasp the whole concept of telling time in French. So let's get right into it. So to tell time in French, you use the subject il, the verb est, and then the number, which is heure. Meaning you say il est and then the hour that you have. So for example, for 1 o'clock, il est une heure. L'heure comes from the word l'heure in French, which means hour. Heure is always used in telling time because heure is feminine, so instead we use une instead of un. So when the time is on the hour, you then follow this example. For it is 2 o'clock, il est 2 heures. And notice the is now because now we have 2, no longer 1. And then for 3 o'clock, we say il est 3 heures. So basing it on the same pattern again, you can try to write the following times. We have 4 o'clock and then 6 o'clock. If you look at the answers at the bottom, you can tell 4 o'clock, il est 4 heures. 6 o'clock, il est 6 heures. Don't forget the il est, because the il est, that's you saying it is, and then the time. So, as you can notice already, when you're telling time in French, it's important for you to know your numbers. Know your numbers, especially from 0 to 60, because if you do not know those numbers, it's going to be hard trying to then figure out first which number is 14, which number is 15, before you even go to just try to tell time. So first of all, master your numbers, especially 1 to 60, and then you can now move on to telling time. So now to move on, there's also these two expressions here. We have midi et minuit. So like in English, we use the expressions for 12 p.m. and 12 a.m. We have 12 p.m., we have noon, and then 12 a.m. we have midnight. So in French, they also have the same expressions. For noon, we have midi. For midnight, we have minuit. So to therefore say it is midnight, we have il est minuit. Same as to say it is midday, we say il est midi. So when we now look at the differences, that's 12-hour versus the 24-hour notation, in France, many people, they prefer using 24-hour instead of the 12-hour because it's simple to use. So just looking at the differences, we can have like your 1 p.m. If you're using the 24-hour notation, you say what? It's 1300 hours. Same as if you have 11 p.m., we then say it's 2300 hours. So the same thing also exists in French now, where you can have your 2 p.m. and then therefore says 2 p.m. using the 24-hour notation. It'll be 1400 hours, like you have 14 hours. So it therefore becomes il est 14 heures. Il est 14 heures, from 14, 14. So basing it on that, let's look at some examples here. We have 4 p.m., 9 p.m., 7 p.m., 11 p.m. You can try those by yourself, and then we'll just look at the examples here. 4 p.m. in the 24-hour, it's what? 1600. So we therefore say il est 16 heures. 16, that's our word for 16. 9 p.m., that's 2100 hours. Il est 21 heures. 7 p.m., 7 p.m. is your 1900 hours. Il est 19 heures. Same as we have 20 heures. They have this 8 p.m. news that's referred to as 20 heures. And then we have 11 p.m., which is 2300. It's il est 23 heures. Il est 23 heures. So the moment a person then says il est 23 heures, you know that they're referring to 11 p.m. because it's 2300 hours. So now for vocabulary, that's mostly to do with the 12-hour notation, sorry. We're not using the 24-hour. You can now use this vocabulary to determine or to specify whether you're referring to the morning, afternoon, or evening. Think of it this way. In French, we have du matin, which is morning, de l'après-midi, which is afternoon, and then du soir, which is evening. So your du soir, that's your evening, maybe from 6 p.m. going up. So, par exemple, il est 2 heures de l'après-midi. Il est 2 heures de l'après-midi. That is 2 p.m. Again, basing it, these examples, please try practice out the examples because before you look at the answers there. We have it's 1 a.m., it's 6 p.m., it's 2 p.m. It's 1 a.m. becomes il est 1 heure du matin because it's 1 a.m. it's in the morning. It's 6 p.m. Il est 6 heures du soir because 6 p.m. is no longer afternoon, it's now in the evening. And then we have it's 2 p.m. Il est 2 heures de l'après-midi. 2 heures de l'après-midi. That's 2. It's 2 p.m. That's the difference there. That in French, we refer to them as du matin, morning, de l'après-midi, afternoon, du soir, evening. Whereas in English, you only have AM and PM. So, now, going forward now, you have this phrase, quelle heure est-il? Quelle heure est-il? Meaning, what time is it? You can try write the following times in French. We have 7 o'clock p.m., 8 o'clock a.m., 11 o'clock p.m., and then we have midnight. We'll start with the first one. 7 o'clock p.m. We have il est 7 heures du soir. Il est 7 heures du soir. And then we have 8 o'clock a.m. That's il est 8 heures du matin. Il est 8 heures du matin because it's 8 in the morning. And then we also have 11 o'clock p.m. Il est 11 heures du soir. Il est 11 heures. That's il est 11 heures du soir. Il est 11 heures du soir. And then for your midnight, we have il est minuit. Il est minuit. So now let's look at the telling time past the hour, because it's not always going to be on the hour. So when talking about time past the hour, you just add the minutes after the number of hours. So example, you have 1:10 here. Il est 1h10. Then you have 3:26. That's 26 past 3. Il est 3h26. Of course, you can tell that the time that I'm referring to is 24 hour. But if you want to specify now, that's your morning, afternoon, and evening, that's when you then say, il est 1h10 du matin. Il est 1h10 du matin. The time of day, it comes after the minutes. Same as in English, you have your AM, PM coming after the minutes. This one comes after the minutes as well. We go back 3:26. Il est 3h26 de l'après-midi. Il est 3h26 de l'après-midi. So, let's look at 15:30. We have 15 after, that's a quart, and then 30 after, a demi. As the same way we look at it, it's rare way to refer to something to refer to your time as it's 15 past 2 or it's 15 past 1. It's always quarter past, or it's usually quarter past or half past. So you have 1:15. So instead of, if you don't want to say 15, you want to say, that's when you can now say a quart. If you don't want to say 30, that's when you can actually say a demi. So you have 1:15. That's il est 1h15. And then you have, example, you have 2:30. That's il est 2h30. Il est 2h30. So here's a bit of work here. Write what time it is in French. We have 13:19. So the times that are written in the 24 hour, please write them in the 24 hour. And then the times that are written in the 12 hour, write them also in the 12 hour. So you have 13:19. You have 3:17 in the afternoon. You have 12:15 p.m. Then you have 11:07 a.m. And then you have 12 p.m. And then you have 23:12. And then you have 3:30 p.m. So you can actually pause the video and then write these times down. Okay, and now for our answers, you have your 1319 beauty of 24 hours. How many hours do you have? And then how many minutes do you have? Il est 13h19. Il est 13h19. Or even 19 minutes. Il est 13h19 minutes. 317 in the afternoon. Il est 3h17 de l'après-midi. Il est 3h17 de l'après-midi. That is 3:17 in the afternoon. Remember, your du matin is the morning, de l'après-midi, afternoon, du soir, evening. Then you have 12:15 p.m. Il est midi quart. Il est midi quart. And then you have 11:07 a.m. Il est 11h07 du matin. Il est 11h07 du matin. And then 12 p.m. Il est midi. Il est midi. Because it's 12 p.m. And then you have 23:12. Il est 23h12. Il est 23h12. And then you have 3:30 p.m. Il est 3h30. Il est 3h30. Il est 3h30. So now telling time after 30 minutes. So now after 30 minutes past the hour. So in French, you go to the next hour and then subtract the minutes. I'll backtrack a bit. In English, if it's your time, this is 10:40, you'd say it's 20 minutes to 11. But in French, you do it the other way around, where you say it is 11 o'clock minus 20 minutes. So your word for minus, it's moi. Moi, that's our word for minus. So you'd say il est 11h moins 20. Il est 11h moins 20. So now for your practice, you can try these times. You have 3:50, and then you have 12:55. 3:50, again, il est 4h moins 10. Il est 4h moins 10. And then same as 12:55, il est 13h moins 5. Il est 13h moins 5. So now, when you're telling time 45 minutes after the hour, just like 15 after, you can say a quart and the quarter. For 45, it also has their own, there's also a special expression. You say quarter to, which is moins le quart, remember? And then now, when you're mentioning time after the hour, let's say 45 minutes after the hour, just like 15 after, 45 minutes also has its own special expression, remember? You mentioned the hour you're going to, minus, that's moins, and the number of minutes that are left. So in this case, il est 11h moins le quart. That's for 10:45. Il est 11h, we're going to 11 moins le quart. So whenever it is 45 minutes after the hour, that's when you use this expression. So for an example, we have 2:45 p.m. and then 6:45 a.m. 2:45 p.m. we're going to 3. So we'll say il est 3h. But c'est moins le quart de l'après-midi. So il est 3h moins le quart de l'après-midi. And then we also have 6:45 a.m. Il est 7h moins le quart du matin. Il est 7h moins le quart du matin. If you notice, both of them, we've specified that there's de l'après-midi and then du matin. So before we look at these examples, you just want to specify, like, you just want to clear up something. When you, let's go back. When you're telling time to the hour, that one, it only applies to your 12-hour annotation. But then when it's 24, the only thing you're doing, you're telling me just how many hours do you have and then how many minutes do you have. But when it comes now to the 12-hour annotation, that's when you have to do the math. Okay, so we'll go back. So we have an example here. To ask someone, à quelle heure tu as? What time do you have? Tu as quel cours à? What class do you have at? And then now to respond, j'ai le français, that's I have French, à 13h30. I have French at 13:30. J'ai le français ou j'ai le portugais, I have Portuguese à 8h du matin. I have Portuguese at 8 in the morning. This example that we have. À quelle heure tu as le français? J'ai le français à 11h30. Alright, so that's all we have. Here's some classwork that you need to do. It's just exercise, little exercise you can do for your practice. So for these times, write the following times into French. And remember, if it's in the 12-hour notation, you maintain it in the 12-hour notation. If it's in the 24-hour notation, you keep it in the 24-hour notation. And like I said, I'll repeat this again. When it's in the 24-hour notation, all you're doing is telling us how many hours do you have and then how many minutes do you have, which is why most people prefer the 24-hour. But then if it's in the 12-hour notation, you have to specify, is it in the morning, du matin? Is it in the afternoon, de l'après-midi? Or is it in the evening, du soir? And then also, when it's to the hour, when it's in the 12-hour notation, you also need to tell us you're going to the hour and then moi, that is minus the number of minutes that are left. Those are the two differences between your 12-hour and then your 24-hour notation. Bon, c'est tout et au revoir.